this week actually marks the Hilula of a very, very famous rabbi we spoke about, I think, last year, Rabbi Binyamin Zev Batzri. I think it's going to be in Yud Gimel Tevet, which is going to mark, I believe, it's taken maybe 11 or 12 years since he passed away. I think 12 years. But I want to speak today about his father, who was another really, really great rabbi of his time. Rabbi, I believe we've spoken about on various occasions before here inside this series, Rabbi Sasson Bazri. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, great rabbi. I believe he passed away just over 10 years, I think, on at the end of the first day of Sukkot, of that festival. So since it happens to be the Hilul of Rabbi Binyamin Batzri, I thought maybe we'll speak about his father today, because we did speak about the great Rabbi Binyamin Zev Batzri last year. So we'll say a few words. I think he passed away towards the start of October in 2015. I think precisely it was Motzei first day of Sukkot. And very, very sad news. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life and within regards to his family. So, he was very, very great. I think his father's name was Rabbi Yosef Bazri, and his mother's name was Marat Victoria, Rabbinit Victoria. Now, it's actually interesting. He had great yichus in of itself. Remember, many of the great rabbonim obviously will have great forefathers also, because many of the great rabbonim, the line of great rabbis, would actually keep on, and I think a lineage would actually come about within regards to of Rav Eliyahu Chaim. He was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was connected to Rabbi Yosef Chaim Baghdad, the famous Spanish Chai, and from his mother's side to Rabbi Yehuda Fatah, another great rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions here before. So let's say maybe just a short word with regards to Rabbi Yehuda Fataya. We've spoken about Ben Ish Chai extensively here on this series. Rabbi Yehuda Fataya lived between 1859 to 1942. He was a Baghdadi Kabbalist. He was a magnificent scholar and was known as a significant figure, let's just say, when it comes to Jewish mysticism, expertise within regards to Gilgulim. He was one of the prominent figures, let's just say, in Baghdad, in Iraq, in his point in time. He wrote various different works, including Minchat Yehuda, which discussed various different topics, and very, very famous rabbi of his time. And I think we spoke about him on various occasions before, within regards to dreams, and he was really, at that point in time in Iraq, had a very great community. And also Ben Ish Chai, we've spoken about extensively, so I'm not going to mention so much about him, the great rabbi, but that we're talking about, he was connected to them from a family point of view, which is very, very interesting to add on. Okay, so he was educated, I think, really within regards to the Sephardic world of Torah at that point in time. There was a famous Yeshivat Porat Yosef in the old city of Jerusalem, and I think he was there originally. Remember, he was born back in the year 1919. I think he was approximately 86 years of age at the time he passed away. So in his younger years, he would learn in the famous Yeshivat Porat Yosef over there, and really connected well with the Rabbonim there. The head of the yeshiva, I think, at the time when he was a student, was a famous Rabbi Ezra Atiyah, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and there was other great rabbis in the yeshiva, and his potential and greatness came about just even at a young age. You could see it. He would serve for many years as a rabbi. He was known as a rabbi that would give great sermons. He was a tzaddik, righteous speaker, and would really connect to the hearts, draw them close, the listeners, drawing them close towards Torah. So within regards to an outreach cure point of view, he was phenomenal. During his life, I believe, I'm not mistaken, he was very much connected, I think, to Avat Shalom, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to just encapsulate over and say in Hebrew. Just there's an excellent article on Kikara Shabbat's website, which I use on various occasions over there. And so that really encapsulates, let's just say, in a better, let's say, formation in of itself. So, yes, he was close to Rabbi Ezra Atiyah. Was very much, I think, was seen as a great rabbinic. Shimesh rabot b'shanim k'magid v'dovet min hasharim asher hapiach ruach tahara b'livot hashomim likravam letorah b'meshech kol chayav lamad ka'avrech min haminyan b'yeshivat chevrat ahavat shalom. So it was very much connected to the Avat Shalom institutions, Kollel structure in Israel. He was not just learning there and grappling with other cases and many people coming. He was actually a dayan. He was actually working there inside the Bet Din over there in that specific vicinity. Zachala ben Sha'ir et oratora, vavriach et Hashemah be'er Sheva u'bedaron. Kulo ha'gaon Rabbi Benjamin Zev Ba'tzri Zechet Tzadik Livracha. We spoke about Rabbi Benjamin. We're going to speak about him in a minute. Happened to be his son who ended up becoming a really, really famous rabbi, famous kiruv rabbi, inspiration rabbi. Amnan lo zacha b'no chavivo ze niftar b'chaya b'odo b'zia b'richato ach ashira acharav et nechado hagaon Rabbi Yosef Chaim Batzri. So his grandson, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Batzri, very much also is a, let's just say, famous kiruv outreach, a gigantic rabbi in Mizrach Meshech Derech Aviv Mostot Torah Be'er Sheva. There's a foundation, a Torah foundation in Be'er Sheva, Achiv HaGaonim Abedin B'Yerushalayim Rabbi Ezra V'Makbil Rab David Batzri. כמו כן, הוציא אחריו חתנים נכדים ונינים הולכים בדרך השם. Remember, this was actually written nearly about 11 and a half years ago, I believe, or just over 10 and a half years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So he obviously had the family structure would change in the last 10 years, over 10 years. That's something that we have to point out. And I think they actually were sitting Shiva at the time after Rav Sasson did pass away, I think in the street of the Yosef ben Matityahu street in Jerusalem, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe he passed away just nearly about 10 and a half years ago, slightly less than that. So he was a great rabbi of his time. Let's speak, first of all, a few words within regards to his son. I think his son passed away in December 2013. We're talking about, I think, approximately just over 12 years ago. It was English-wise. And 13th of Tevet, I believe, marks Kisi Kilula. He was, I think he passed away. He was, let's say, he was a rabbi of the ultra-Orthodox community in Be'er Sheva, but really influenced many of the locals in Be'er Sheva. He was the head of Yeshivat Bet Yosef in that specific city. And I think he passed away eventually in Soroka Hospital in Be'er Sheva. And he was 57 years of age at the time he passed away. He was a great rabbi of his time. I think he was born in Jerusalem, if I'm not mistaken. Rabbi Sasson Bazri, who was, I think he was precisely, Rabbi Sasson Bazri was a great-grandson of the sister of the Ben Ish Chai. And very interesting enough, and was the grandson of the Kabbalist Rabbi Yehuda Fataya, his uncle, I think, obviously, very interesting. Rabbi Benjamin's uncle is Kabbalist Rabbi David Batzri from Jerusalem. Now, I think when Rabbi Benjamin was young, he would study in Yeshiva Kol Torah, and he was very, very active in outreach, kiruv work while he was young. He would open a yeshiva for Balei Teshuva, a midrasha for girls in Be'er Sheva, and would serve at the head of the Torah center, Bet Yosef, in the city, which included yeshivot, Batei Midrashot, and Kollelim also, which was absolutely astounding. Anyone tuning in live at the moment, welcome to our community. We're exploring the life, a few highlights within regards to Rabbi Sasson Bazri, who was a very, very great rabbi of his time in Israel, a rabbi I believe we've spoken about on various occasions before here inside the series, and how important it is to actually speak about him. So if you're new to the channel over here and you're watching this, please subscribe and join our community over here, as we've got a lot of fantastic content for all fantastic people out there, and really, really appreciate the phenomenal feedback everyone is giving, and as we really, really try and include great content, informative art content here on this channel over here. So that's okay. So let's continue speaking about Rabbi Benjamin Batzri. A few more words with regards to great rabbi. He would learn in Yeshivat Kol Torah. He would really, really bring about various different Torah centers, including the Bet Yosef, as mentioned before, which included Yeshivot, Batei Midrashim, and Kollelim. He was known as one of the greatest outreach personalities in general, especially in Be'er Sheva, and became very famous because of the slichot, huge slichot events. He would actually host every year, I think, just before Yom Kippur, in which 18,000 people would participate. I think he would do it in some of the stadiums also over there. He established Torah in Be'er Sheva, and many let's say, huge hakarta tov, for really he injected spirituality and physicality to them. He would bring many people to Rabbi Nachman of Breslov every Rosh Hashanah. I think they would go to Uman, Ukraine. He would encourage us also to travel with various students and would give central shiurim in various other parts and Sephardic communities all over also. And very, very interesting, very, very great rabbi of his time. I think the funeral procession took place when he passed away in the city of Be'er Sheva, if I'm not mistaken, over there. So that's also something very, very interesting. It's actually reported over here from the Haredim website. He left many descendants, including 12 children, and many of the generations have followed in his path also. And I think, sadly, his wife, Rabbanit Nusa Rachel, if I'm not mistaken, had passed away 6 months prior or something, approximately over there. So Rabbi Benjamin Batzri was a really, really great rabbi. I think he was born actually in the year 1956. He passed away, I think, at the end of 2013. So that was very, very famous. He happened to be a famous rabbi also. And we spoke about, as I say, a few more words with regards to him, with regards to Rabbi Sasson. Also, I think it's very, very important to speak about it. He would actually learn under the auspices of his father, Rabbi Sasson Bazri. His uncle, I think, Rabbi David Batzri, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mekubalim HaShalom, we're going to speak about in a minute with regards to him. I think David Nosafhu, Chacham Ezra Batzri, Dayan Beit Din Gadol B'Yerushalayim. So I think while he was young, he would learn, as we said before, in Yeshivat Hamatmidim, Le'idut Mizrach, and afterwards he would learn in Yeshivat Kol Torah, as we mentioned before, along with Rabbi Betzalel Toledano, another great rabbi he happened to be, Rosh Yeshivat Zohera Torah, and Rabbi Yitzchak Yerucham Bordoyansky, if I'm not mistaken, who's a Rosh Yeshiva of Kol Torah. Now, Rabbi Benjamin Batzri, I think his wife's name was Marat Yocheved Rachel, to be precise, and she was the daughter of another great rabbi, Rabbi Rachamim Buchris, and would have many descendants, as I mentioned before. Who was Rabbi Rachamim Buchris? He was also a great rabbi, a rabbi we've spoken about before here on this series. I think, to be precise, Rabbi Rachamim, I think, was born in the year 1911, passed away in 2005. I think his Hilula happens to be, if I'm not mistaken, on the 27th of Shvat. He was, I think his grandfather himself happened to be a famous rabbi in Jerba. He actually came to Eretz Israel, I think, a couple of years before the state was formed, and I think he would actually dwell. He would be a Talmud, would be living in a village, I think, of Yavna, and then would live in Bnei Brak afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. And he was doing various different works in his life, but was also doing huge amounts of Torah learning. I think he was in spices trade, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had a connection with Bar Ilan University also. We mentioned this on various occasions before over here inside this series, but he really, really bring about and garner up huge amounts of Torah. And I think he was author of various different books, including Lev Rachav, if I'm not mistaken, and B'Sidra Lema'ala Esrim Sfarim, if I'm not mistaken, on Torah, on the tractate of Avot, on various different tractates in the Gemara, in the Shas, on Psalms, Tehillim, on Megillot, and various other books. I think would actually come about at that various different stages of time. That's something that we have to point out. Just going back to Rabbi Benjamin Batzri. So I think in the year 1986, Rabbi Benjamin would actually live in Ofakim, along with, and I think he was learning at the same time with Rav Shimshon Pitkos, who was another great rabbi, 1987, if I'm not mistaken. הגיע וערך את חלק ב' של הספר שו"ת חיים וחסד של חכם חיים יצחק מוספיה, if I'm not mistaken, he was involved with. And then I think he would, then eventually, after 1987, he would end up in Be'er Sheva and will bringing about the various different mosstots at that point in time, Bet Yosef over there inside the neighborhood. And really, really important, let's just say, foundations opening up at various different, let's just say, places in of itself. I think in 2014, after he passed away, a book called the Benyami HaTzadik would actually be printed. Al-Mesechet Chayab, if I'm not mistaken, I think in 2015, a book called Sha'ar Benyamin, which is various different Chidushim and Midrashot, let's just say, was actually from, I think, his Talmidim will help print it. In 2018, the Avodat Benyamin, if I'm not mistaken, would actually come out at that point in time. Another book will come out in the year 2020. So we can see really the brilliance with regards to Rabbi Benjamin Batzri and many teachings we can actually see within regards to his book. So it's actually interesting. Now, I want to speak about in a minute also about Rabbi Yosef Bazri. I think happens to be another descendant of Rabbi Sasson Bazri, who we are speaking about today. I'm just going to take a short 1 minute break over here at the moment, and and then we will go back and speak about him in a minute time. So please, everyone, be patient for a minute, and we're going to come back in 1 minute, friends. Just taking a short break. Hi, shalom everyone. Thanks for being patient. And we're exploring the life of some of the great rabbis from the Btzri family. Over here, many great Torah scholars. We have to also point out, within regards to Rav Yosef Bazri, we happen to be speaking about Rabbi Sasson Bazri here inside this video, who passed away just after, I think, Motzei Yom Tov Rishon of Sukkot back in the year 2015. Rabbi Yosef Bazri also happens to be a very famous rabbi of his time. A rabbi I think we've spoken about on various occasions over here before. There's actually an excellent interview that actually in the bfsnet.co.il website. And I think he was, Rav Yosef Chaim Bazri happens to be the son of Rabbi Benjamin Btzri, if I'm not mistaken, and he's doing tireless work all over Be'er-Sheva, really continuing, let's just say, the brilliance within regards to the Bet Yosef institutions over there, which is really injecting spirituality, kiruv, and so on and so forth over there. I think Rav Yosef Chaim Btzri, I think currently is about nearly about 45 years of age, if I'm not mistaken. His wife's name is Rabbanit Chana. I think she's born actually in Emmanuel, if I'm not mistaken. They have a big family, Baruch Hashem, also, and I think grandchildren, if I'm not mistaken. And he really came from the Be'er-Sheva environment over there at that point in time. And would really, even at a young age, would be very much encouraged from Rav Benjamin Batzri's Zecher Tzadik Livracha, his great Torah work over there. And I think he even says himself, if I'm not mistaken, that by nature he's a shy person, but being exposed to the public and let's just say the kiruv and all of that, how much he actually brought the personality within regards to him to conduct all the great Torah activities, kiruv work, and really making a difference in of itself. So he would actually he's been working tirelessly for many years, and there's actually an excellent article out there within regards to how he would improve with his Torah learning and really fit into the position, mold into that position, which I recommend everyone to actually look into. Now, another famous rabbi from the family, Rabbi David Batzri, who we've spoken about over here. I think we've mentioned him on various occasions before. Hopefully, we'll probably record a video, Bezrat Hashem, on maybe on the institutions, the Bet Yosef institutions, and so on and so forth. I think that is something that definitely I would like to do here at a stage in time. So it's actually interesting. So who was Rav David Shalom Batzri, very, very famous rabbi, relative of theirs. I think he's born actually in the year 1941. He's a Kabbalist. He's Rosh Yeshivat HaShalom in Jerusalem, if I'm not mistaken. And really, I think, as I said before, he descends or has a family connection to Rav Yosef Chaim, the famous Ben Ish Chai, and once again also Rabbi Yehuda Fataya. I think he learned in Yeshivat Porat Yosef. I think he was very close to Rabbi Yehuda Tzadka, who was a Rosh Yeshiva over there at one stage in time. He was also very close to Rav Salman Mutzafi, another great rabbi we mentioned on various occasions before. He was a posek, a Rosh Yeshiva of the Bnei Tzion in Jerusalem. I think in the he would become the Rosh Yeshiva, if I'm not mistaken, of Chevrat Avat Shalom. This is along with Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Hillel. And I think his son is Rabbi Yitzchak Batzri, who we're going to speak about in a minute. I think they would set up together the famous Yeshivat Shalom, and this actually is, I think, named after Rabbi Shalom Shrabi, the famous Rosh Hashanah Kadosh. Rav David Shalom Batzri, once again, we have to point out, he opened up yeshivot and has done huge amounts, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he's got a close connection with various other rabbis, also including the famous Rabbi Yaakov Ades, who's a great Talmud Chacham and a Kabbalist, and the author of the book, the Divrei Yaakov, if I'm not mistaken. It's actually interesting. Rabbi David Batzri, his family itself, you can see, I think his brother-in-law, if I'm not mistaken, is Rabbi Ben Sion Mutzafi, which is absolutely phenomenal, one of the leading Sephardic rabbis across the world without a doubt. I think another one of his brother-in-law is Rabbi Yehuda Mutzafi, another great rabbi. So you can see really the greatness in the family itself, and so much can actually be related over within regards to him. Also, let's speak about Rabbi Yitzchak Batzri, because he's also a very, very famous rabbi. He actually was born in the year 1968. He's relatively young. He's 57 years of age. He was actually born in Jerusalem. Well, obviously, his father is Rav David, and his mother is Rabbanit Tzipora. I think, Rabbanit Tzipora, I think the daughter, if I'm not mistaken, of Rav Salmon Mutzafi, who we've mentioned about on various occasions before. And I think the family themselves, they actually do descend, I think, from Spain after the Spanish expulsion, would eventually move to Tzfat, and then eventually move to Damascus, if I'm not mistaken. And very, very interesting. And I think originally the forefathers would learn over there with the famous Rabbi Shmuel Vital, if I'm not mistaken. So that's very, very interesting. Now, let's just say a word with regards to Rav Yitzchak Batzri. I think it's important we speak about him. I think he learned when he was younger in Yeshivat Ohel Yaakov under Rabbi Yitzchak Wasserman, and also in Yeshivat Beit Talmud, also another famous yeshiva, if I'm not mistaken, in Jerusalem. He's got his wife's name, Rabbi Yitzchak Batzri's wife's name, happens to be Rabbanit. I think he would get married to, I'm not too sure what her name is, but he would get married to the daughter of Rabbi Chaim El Haddad, who's Rav of the neighborhood of Sanhedria Morchevet in Jerusalem. I think he would initially learn in the kollel, famous kollel called Be'er Abraham, and then he worked as a rabbi in the Beit Knesset, synagogue of Yeshua Zikri in Jerusalem over there, very, very prominent position. And as time goes on, there will be establishment along with, I think, his father of the Yeshivat Mukubelim HaShalom. And it's famously, he learns with Rabbi Yaakov Ades, who's a very, very famous rabbi, which is something that we have to point out. And we'll do huge, he's a very, very famous rabbi. I think you can actually see various different publications which he actually writes on various occasions for leaflets for Shabbat. It's distributed in nearly all the places. And he was close to Rabbi Sasson Bazri, who we were speaking about today. And that's something that we have to point out. And I think he was vocal at the time when the coronavirus initially started, if I recollect. Yeah. And he was quite vocal within regards to that, and much more. I think he hosts radio program shows. I think he's very much connected to the Hida Brut channel, outreach channel. Also, on top of everything else, he gives various different classes, especially a famous one on the weekly Torah portion. I think he's connected also to Kan Moreshet, if I'm not mistaken, also give various different classes also now. He's authored many different books also. Rabbi Btzri has. Let's just explore it. We're speaking here now about Rabbi Yitzchak Btzri, including, let's just say, Kedushat Chayei HaOvrim, which is another great book. I think that was printed in 1996. We're going to explore a few more of his books in a minute. We're just going to take another very short break for 1 minute, and we'll be back, friends. Yeah, thanks very much for being patient, friends. Over here, we're just speaking about Rabbi Sasson Bazri, very great rabbi of some great Kabbalists and a few of his family members. We're going to just explore a few of the books which of Rabbi Yitzchak Bazri. Many different books has been actually printed. Let's just say, I think various different writings on the Arizal, if I'm not mistaken, Sha'ar Mamrei Razal, if I'm not mistaken, Likutei Hashas, for example, Siach Yitzchak. There's a whole list by Israeli Rabbi, another one, which is Otzah HaSugurot, they've got Otzah HaTfilot, very simply, Sichat Yitzchak, if I'm not mistaken. So this family really not just doing huge amounts of outreach work, let's just say, itself, many different important, let's just say, Torah works, encompassing just overall, which is absolutely phenomenal that we have to point out over here, friends, and just the importance within regards to it. And it was many different, let's just say, different writings have actually been published on various occasions before within regards to him. So that's something that very important to point out also. So that's interesting, and he's very active in various different news articles and Torah publications, and so on and so forth. Just to add another thing within regards to him, I believe, more books, various different books on Tehillim, Nevi'im, I think Amorim, Tanaim, Talmud Bavli, the Talmud itself, the Shas, and Torah, various different volumes, Atzah, Hagilgulim, Pachad Yitzchak, this one, Sha'ar Mamrei Razal. It's a whole huge list, let's just say, of different great books, and he really does touch on all different Torah topics in his writings, but at the same time, you can see the grandiose amount of kiruv work and outreach work that he's done is absolutely phenomenal. That's something that we have to just attest to over here. And, just like many of those great rabbis of older years, let's just talk about over there, he was really, he happens to be also a genius. So we've explored within regards to Rabbi Sasson Bazri and various different of his family members here today in this special edition. And it's all the way back in Sukkot time where I believe his Hilula is going to be. So that's something that we have to point out over here. Now, friends, we're a community here. We love exploring about great rabbis. Of yesterday, we've recorded about more than 1,400 great tzaddikim of yesterday over here. So that's something that we have to point out. And many, many great rabbis there were of all throughout Jewish history, and pleasantness, and how we can celebrate the great Chachamim. So we just spoke about Rabbi Yitzchak Bazri also over the last few minutes, and I have to just point out over there, the Bazri family in of itself really, really come from great descendants, great Rabbanim, and huge amounts. That's something that we have to attest to also. So he was very close to Rabbi Sasson Bazri. Rabbi Yitzchak was. As we mentioned before, I think Rabbi Yitzchak Bazri, if I'm not mistaken, he was, he's still alive. Baruch Hashem Shlita, Bez Hashem, lived to 120. He got married to the daughter when he was younger of Rav Chaim El-Haddad. So let's explore a bit within regards to him. That happened to be his father-in-law, and the famous rabbi without a doubt. And very, very great rabbi. I think Rav Chaim El-Haddad happens to be. So that's something we have to point out. So you can see the great generations, brilliance, and so on and so forth. That is very, very important also, friends. So a lot more can be learned within regards to him, within regards to the family, and so on and so forth. So I recommend everyone to learn more. Our friends over here, we are a community. We love exploring about great rabbis of yesterday. Now, we don't just explore about great rabbis that might have been from the past. We like to explore also and tour around Israel, really get a feel for the country and for the personalities and the great rabbanim that we've spoken about here of yesterday. We feel it's really, really important. So we do tours all over Israel. We explore various different parts, which we speak about a lot over here, and really get insights looking at different roads. We also have a great Torah personality every single day at the moment that shares over a burst of wisdom for Am Yisrael, and we're very, very fortunate, we must point out, that we've got that privilege also. So that's something very, very interesting. So also on this series, we record daily tidbits of the Daf Yomi. We've recorded already nearly more than 1,000 videos of it, which is absolutely phenomenal achievement. We started off on the tractate of Ketubot, and gone from strength to strength. Obviously, at the moment, at present, we are speaking about the various different of Mesaket Zvachim. We're actually going to have a grand siyum also soon. So that's something that we should also point out over here. And absolutely phenomenal works of friends. Anyone, if you're tuning live, welcome to our community over here. If this is the first time, and please drop a comment if you happen to descend from any of the great rabbis that we happen to be speaking about here inside this series, inside this program. Please send me an email. I would love to hear more within regards to them. If you feel I've maybe missed out some important information, I will try and look into it also. And how important it is that we all look back on the great teachings of the rabbis of yesteryears and really explore on the great Sefarim and great Torah material, because there's so much out there. So wishing you well. Don't forget, friends, please subscribe to the channel. We are just over 8,000 subscribers now, thank God. So it's really, really going from strength to strength, and huge amounts more also. So just recording this just after the Jewish festival of, not Jewish festival, it was a fast actually. We're actually recording this after the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, because happens to be about 8 days ago here from time recording, and it was a solemn day today because it was a fast of Asara B'Tevet, the 10th of Tevet it marked today. So on that aspect, it was definitely very solemn and thought-provoking. Obviously wanted the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash. Unfortunately, that has not arisen yet, but Bezrat Hashem. And we spoke about today also about Rabbi Benjamin Zev Btzry, really recording this because his Hilula happens to be on Yud Gimel Tevet, and I think he passed away in the year 2013. But since we recorded about him already last year, I thought it was an opportune time to speak about Rabbi Sasson Bazri. So wishing you all well, have a meaningful week, and we're actually in midweek now here on Tuesday, and wishing you just blessings here from Israel. So thanks for spending the time to watch, and take care and be well. Thank you.